Hello everyone, welcome back to a new writing video. For today's video I'm going to set up my Scrivener because I'm soon going to be working on a new project for NaNoWriMo. So this is part of my PREPTOBER series. There will be another PREPTOBER video coming out later in October where I outline the book. But in today's video I am going to set up my Scrivener with customization, you know how my Scrivener looks, with setting up my documents all ready to outline and showing you that bit of my process before starting writing. While doing that, I'm actually going to answer some questions because I asked you on my Instagram. It is linked below if you want to follow me there. And so many of you came with awesome questions and I'm going to answer some of them in this video. I will hopefully get to all of them, but there was quite a lot, so we'll see. So I am screen recording my whole screen right now and I am going to go into Scrivener. I haven't really been into Scrivener since I finished my last project. So this will be interesting. What are we going to call this? Witchy Autumns. Because if you haven't watched my project and Pinterest video where I talk about what I have been working on and what I will be working on while scrolling through Pinterest and making a mood board for this particular book, I can link that in one of these corners and also below. But in that I talk about my new project and I call it Witchy Autumns because that is the Pinterest board name. We're gonna create a new Scrivener file. Okay, so this is completely new. Here I have all the chapters and everything, and I'm not going to go into the chapters, this part of my manuscript, because that is where I will actually write the book. So I will actually start going into characters, and I'm gonna start with answering the first question, which is what fantasy book do you always recommend? I always recommend Odin's Child by C.D. Peterson because I absolutely love that. That is a Norse-inspired YA fantasy with a little bit of romance, a little bit of politics and mystery and all the fantasy vibes that I love in books. And then I also always recommend Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor because that is so magical, whimsical. So here I am just dumping characters. Okay, so I have my two main characters, MC1 and MC2, and I have my other main character, which I'm actually gonna put in here, main character 3. That is MC1's sister. And then I have a side character here, MC2 friend. And then I'm gonna put in a lot of other characters because I have a lot of side characters that I want to feel, you know, alive, so I want to have a separate document for them. Or I do one document for all of those characters, because you are going to get why I'm saying this. The other side characters that is in this book that is going to play a big part of the book is my female character's sisters. I have my main character 1, you know, the main character, the woman that we are following in this book. Then we have main character 3, which is her sister, and then they have a lot of other sisters that is going to be side characters. That is definitely set in stone, but then I don't know if my second main character is going to have a lot more friends. Maybe I'm just gonna put in MC2 another friend. Okay, then I'm gonna copy and paste this into my document. This is a character profile from Abby Emmons. Abby Emmons here on YouTube. She has an AuthorTube channel and she is the pro at outlining and character sheets. So I'm using that outline for both of my main characters. No, all 3 of my main characters. I just came up with this idea yesterday that I was going to have a third main character. She has a big role in the story, but she isn't the one that will take up the most screen time. But I wanted to have another POV to like switch it up a bit and switch the vibes and see behind the scenes when our 2 main characters doesn't actually know anything. The next question, what are more popular books that you have DNF'd? And that has to be the second Clockwork series book by Cassandra Clare. I don't remember if it's called Clockwork Prince or Clockwork Princess. I think Clockwork Angel is the first one, but I'm not sure. I definitely DNF'd that, and I don't usually DNF books, so that says something about me. The third question is, what is my favorite book of all time? And you know, this is kind of mean to ask. No, I'm just kidding. But it is really hard for me to answer that, and I think it's hard for anyone who reads a lot to answer that. But at the same time, we always ask other readers this because we want to put them in that situation and we want to know the answer of it. Today, my favorite book is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. It is set in Russia in winter. It is really atmospherical with like folklore, with the, you know, the deep Russian winter, and it follows a girl from book 1 to book 3 as she grows up. It has a big like magical theme. And yeah, that's my favorite book today. So now I have put in a side character template for all my side characters, and that's also a template from Abby Emmons. I of course have linked her below if you want to check out her videos. I need to put in my outline. So this is going to be the overarching plot with all the story beats of Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3, because like this is a 3-act story structure. I'm just copying and pasting the one that I already have, which is of my Gods of Rotten Ruin, so we don't have to look at that right now, but I'm going to delete and everything my outline that is already consistent because I can't find the document where I had the outline just by itself. So that's that. But here in this I'm also going to have a outline romantic arc. Now I'm going to answer a quick random question because it isn't really a bookish or a writing question. So some of my favorite TV shows, I'm gonna quickly just go through them. And with an E on Netflix, Vincenzo, also on Netflix, a K-drama that I absolutely love and I'm obsessed with still 1 week after finishing it. It's Okay Not to Be Okay, also a K-drama on Netflix. The Witcher, also on Netflix. Shadow and Bone, also on Netflix. If you're a fellow book lover, you have probably already seen that. And Rookie Historian, a historical K-drama, also on Netflix. As you can see, I'm a big Netflix fan. My outline is done, and then I'm going to go to places and go to the next question. Now we come to the writing questions and my writing journey. So when did I know that I wanted to be an author? I think I was probably 10. It was at the time where I actually started to write my own stories by myself and read stories for myself. That was when I knew that I wanted to be an author. And what's my goal with my writing? It is definitely to be able to touch someone with my writing, like emotionally. I want to be able to bring out some kind of emotion. I want to make my readers laugh or cry or feel like they absolutely are in love with my characters the same way that I am and are passionate about my books. That is definitely the goal with my writing. Like, that's all I ask. So do I write a synopsis before starting writing? This is a thing that I have really gotten the hang of, why people write a synopsis, because my idea of that is that you have an idea of a book. Before you start writing it, like the first draft of it, you write a summary of what the book is. Because a synopsis to me is like the back text of a book. Like a summary of maybe the plot, the main character's goals and everything. So that is a synopsis to me. You could say that I write a synopsis, but a much bigger one, and I go more in depth in each character arc or each plot beat. The dramatic curve of a story, I really go in depth in that and not just write a short summary of what it's about. Because that is a synopsis to me, and I don't know if it means the same to you, but if that's the case, I don't write a synopsis at all for my book, like the whole story. I write an outline, and if you want to see me outline another book, I can link my most recent outline with me video that I posted a couple of months ago. It's not that recent. And then I do write synopsis when it comes to like chapters. So before I go into another chapter, I usually write down a summary of what is going to happen in the chapters, all the scenes, to get a hang of what I'm actually going to write. So now we're at places. I have 3 main places that I want to showcase in this right now, and that is the castle where my main character lives, nature, the surroundings of the castle and how the world is built up, and then I also want empire. I'm calling it empire, but it's like a military nation where my second character comes from. So we have places, we have characters, we have an outline. Another question is, how much do I write per day? And this definitely depends on what kind of day it is. If I'm really inspired and have a lot of energy and motivation to write, I can write up to 2,000 words per day. And sometimes I am not very interested in writing at all, and I write only like 500 words or 200 words. It really depends on how I am feeling, but I always, when I'm writing or drafting a book, I always make sure that I write at least 1 hour a day if I have time, and I usually try to make time for writing 1 hour a day. So instead of watching YouTube or reading for an hour, I am going to write for an hour. And that's definitely how I have been able to finish writing 2 drafts in the span of 6 months. And then do I read books about writing, or like there's a newspaper that's called Scrivener here in Sweden? Do I read that? No, I don't. So What genre book are you writing right now? Definitely adult fantasy romances. I absolutely love reading that. I absolutely love writing that because I get to write both about the fantasy aspects that I love, and I also get to write about romance because I love romance. What am I changing? Nothing happens. Have you written anything before Gods of Rock and Ruin? Yes, I have. I have a whole writing series up on my channel with writing updates of writing my first ever book. And then I also have written things that I haven't completed, but we don't have to talk about that. Ooh, look! When I'm highlighting things, it's going to be orange. Have you been turned down by a publisher before? No, not yet. I'm not planning on being turned down, but it happens to every writer out there that they are probably going to be turned down by a publisher or 2 or 3 or 4 or hundreds. And I'm hoping that it's not my dream company or dream publisher that is going to turn me down. So no, not yet, but I am anticipating it. And then do I have any thoughts on a dream release party? If I do release my book, if I do publish my book, I'm going to think about that then. Because right now, I don't have a clue. Another question, how will you celebrate when you do get published, which I'm certain you will. Thank you so much for that question and that comment. I hope that I will get published, hopefully soon, but I don't have any hopes, like I said. How will I celebrate? Maybe ice cream, because I love ice cream, Ben & Jerry ice cream maybe. Hang out with my family, watch K-drama. That's what I usually do. The next question is kind of in-depth, so I will need to really focus on that question. And that is, I really want to know how you plan your editing. It looks so organized. Show every step you do. So, I have it written down right here. When I finish writing a book, the first thing I do, step 1, is letting the book rest for at least 1 month. The best thing is for it to rest like 3 months, so you will forget about the book and then come to it with fresh eyes. And also maybe write something in between that, because you learn a lot by just writing new stuff after finishing a project. I remember writing my first book and then directly going into writing my second book. It's such a difference between them in terms of writing. I did develop a lot during my first project, and that really shows in my second project. And then I wrote something else after my second project. Still, the difference really shows that my newer projects are better written. So let the manuscript rest and maybe write some new stuff, gain some more perspective on writing, learn some new stuff, I guess. Then the second thing is go over my notes that I already have in my head, because oftentimes when I finish writing a book, I already have some notes that I want to look on. So I may know that one of my characters is really inconsistent throughout the book and maybe says things that they wouldn't do. Then I have already made a comment after finishing writing the book about that. Or I may know that my descriptions of the world are not as good as they should be. Then I have already a note on that. So I will go over the notes that I took while writing the book, and then I don't do anything about the notes. But then I read through the whole thing again and take notes on everything. And then I separate the notes, I go over the notes and separate them into rounds of edits. So all the notes that I have on character goes into its own edit. All the notes that I have on the world building is on its own, and so on. So I start with the one that has the most notes, and then I work my way through the book, only thinking on that. And then I do another round of edits with like world building, and I only work on that throughout the book, and so on. When I'm done with that, I read through it again to work on my grammar and things that I pick up on. And then I send it out to beta readers. So after I have gotten it back from my beta readers, which have a lot of great feedback on the overarching plot, the characters, and grammar, I go through it all again. I separate all the big notes from them and make rounds of edits again. So I may have up to 3 to 5 rounds of edits to do, depends on how much I actually need to work on for my book. That process just goes on and on. The last step for me will be sending it out to an editor and then send it out to a publisher. So that's my whole editing process. I hope that you got something out of that. I may do a vlog on this on the future and really show you my every step, because now I just talked about it. So with that said, I think I am actually done with setting up my Scrivener. Like, I have all my characters, places, outline, and yes, now it's all ready for me to begin outlining my book. I'm going to answer the last couple of questions. What has been the greatest challenge yet with writing? I think editing in general is my best answer here, because I think it's so hard to actually edit. And definitely with the Gods of Rock and Ruin, since it is so dear to me. Like, it really comes from my own heart. My own blood, sweat, tears is poured into that book. Because of that, I have it really close to my heart, and it was hard to see the things that didn't work with it. So now we come to the specific questions about Gods of Rotten Ruin. So if you don't know, I have written a book that is called Gods of Rotten Ruin. I have talked about it a couple times now already in this video. But how did you come up with the idea of the book? So I had an old idea about a murder mystery taking place in a magical library, and the main character was in a toxic and destructive relationship with her partner. That thing with the destructive and toxic relationship I took from that story with the murder mystery. And then I saw a tree in deep winter. It was covered in snow and ice, and I got the idea to do a story that was Norse inspired because of Yggdrasil, the tree that connects all the worlds, I guess. So toxic relationship, Norse inspired, and then the want to read a book like this. And when I couldn't do that, I wrote a book about it. So the next question is, can you describe your MC and how did you come up with them? So my main character is Idun. She is a woman that has been through a lot, and she always has the need to feel safe because of what has happened in the past, and because of, you know, her fears and misbelief of the world. She has the need to feel safe and be in control of her situation, and the only way that she thinks that she can be safe is to put herself at risk every day to be with a god that isn't really treating her the way that she should be treated. So she kind of grew out of the story. The story and the theme of the story came first, and then the character came. Maybe not in Idun herself, but in her thought process and in her journey, I put a lot of myself into her. And so that's how she grew as a character, I guess. The last question is, tell us more about the gods. Who are they? So in my book, Gods of Rotten Ruin, there are a lot of magical creatures. There are humans, elves, there are another creature that I'm not gonna spoil right now, and there is also gods. So who are the gods? So they look like humans pretty much. They have the same build as humans, but they have strengths and abilities that humans don't have, and therefore they are the rulers and protectors. And in order to gain the protection of the gods, humans and elves has to work for them, or especially humans have to slave for them. It's a give and take, and usually the gods take more than they give. And does all characters believe in them? And the answer is no. Most humans do believe in them, like in a religious sense. A lot of humans are not believers. They believe in them in a more practical sense. Like, they know that in order to get the protection of the gods, they need to work for them. And so they do. All humans do in some way, and all the elven people do as well. That was a little bit about the gods, and so that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. It was a bit all over the place, I feel like. Thank you guys so much for the questions. It was so fun to actually know that you cared about my process and wanted to know more about me and my writing. And I hope that my answers could give you the information that you were seeking. Give this video a like and a comment below and tell me what you thought of this video. If you're excited for PREPTOBER and NaNoWriMo, if you're going to participate, please let me know in the comments below, and subscribe because I will post more PREPTOBER videos in October, more writing videos in during the Nano month. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!